All right, everybody, we're a day late and a dollar short, but that doesn't really change too much. I'm here again to do another reaction video, and a good friend of mine sent me a Epicurious video, a 4 levels video he wants me to do. I wasn't going to do these again because I always get the lowest viewership out of all the videos that I do on these, but somebody asked for it, which means if he wants to see it, there's a good chance some of you want to see it. Also, obviously, I've shaved off my beard. Just a nice mustache for the summer. I know I'm about 2 or 3 summers short for Top Gun Maverick, for all you Rooster fans, but, you know, I like it. It's kind of funny, because when I was at work, I was like, hey, do you guys notice anything? And they're like, did you grow a mustache? And I was like, no, I shaved my beard. So it's a little funny, I think. I don't know. Maybe I just think I'm more important than I actually am. Anyways, let's get on to this. Now we've got Epicurious, 4 levels of ravioli, amateur to food scientist. Let's see who's in this.
Hi, I'm Onika, and I'm a level 1 chef.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle, and I'm a level 2 chef.
I'm Frank. I'm a chef at the Institute of Culinary.
Okay, so I have seen Frank before many times. He's one of my favorites. All right, well, I see we have Frank here, who is one of my favorites. He's very knowledgeable, and he obviously is a channel favorite because for years they're constantly going back to him. I've seen Gabriella once or twice, I believe, the level 2 cook, and I don't think I've seen the level 1.
Education, and I've been a chef for 24 years.
Today, I'm going to make a ravioli. So I am not experienced in making ravioli.
This recipe is supposed to embody the epitome of springtime. Like springtime in Tuscany. I've never been to Tuscany, maybe someday.
Today I'm making a duck ravioli with a nettle pasta. They're around for a very short amount of time in the spring. I like their flavor. I like what they add to this pasta.
So that's the problem with stuff that's only around for a short time, like nettle, he just said. I have similar, our local grocery stores will have fiddleheads for like 1 week in the summer. And you buy the fiddleheads, you're all excited as a chef. It's like the one time you get to use them. You put them on a special, nobody buys it because they're like, oh, what are fiddleheads? We're so not used to eating seasonality that when there are still some things that are only available in their proper season, nobody wants them. Hey, I hate to interrupt the video, but if you're getting any value out of this, could you please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment down below?
Now, I got this from the supermarket. You don't need to roll your pasta. You don't need to do flour and put it in the oven and 27 hours later.
Making your own pasta just makes a world of difference. Even if you don't want to make it necessarily, I still would recommend getting your pasta from the refrigerated section as opposed to, you know, boxed and dried. It tastes totally different. I think you're gonna get a way more springy and soft and silky sort of texture when you're making pasta from scratch.
I hope you're ready. And now we're gonna make our puree for our pasta. So nettles. Nettles are basically just a plant that grows in the wild, and they have these little spikes on them. If you rub this against your skin, those little spikes will shoot a little bit of acid into your skin and irritate you. So why do we eat these? Because they're delicious, right? They taste kind of like a tangy spinach. So first thing we're gonna do is blanch the nettles, and I'm only gonna go in there for a few minutes, take it out, right into.
Blanching greens like that does a couple things. One, it locks in the color so they don't turn gray. You know, another thing, if say you were doing this with spinach, I'm not sure how much chlorophyll you get out of these, but if you're doing this with spinach, the water's going to turn green, or you can extract a lot of chlorophyll. You can just squeeze the spinach after and get it out, and then you can use that green water if you want it in your pasta to color it. You know, the first one saying you don't need to buy your dough. You can just, it looks like she's going to boil lasagna noodles and try and make ravioli out of that. I'm not sure how that'll work. But I watched a good interview with Bobby Flay where he was talking about pasta dough. And he said anytime that they're going to use pasta in competition, I forget where he said he learned the recipe from, but somebody else taught it to him. We all teach each other and basically the ingredients go right into the KitchenAid mixer. You hit start, you let it Some mixers have a dough button, and you use the plastic chopping blade. Set it off to the side. He said, it's the very first thing somebody does on his team. They throw the ingredients in there. They hit it. 7 minutes later, they pull it out. The dough's formed, and they fold it and let it rest in the fridge for half an hour. So it's not a complicated process to make dough from scratch if you have a food processor.
Our ice water. Once the nettles are cool, we're just going to take the leaves that were separated from the stem and put them in here. But you can see right now I can hold these without getting stung.
Time to start making my pasta. First thing is I'm just gonna go ahead and crack my eggs. There's a lot of eggs. Let's get cracking. Sorry, had to. These are ready to be added into my flour and turned into dough.
We blanched the nettles, squeezed them out, got them fairly dry. Now what we're going to do is blend them with our duck eggs. How are duck eggs different than chicken eggs? Well, they're a little bit bigger and they're a little bit richer. They have a little more flavor than chicken eggs because ducks eat different things than chickens. We got our nettle and duck egg puree ready. Let's make the pasta.
You could just go, it's a box of pasta, you just grab it. Normally it's on the bottom shelf and you just get it. And now it's here.
So I have 2 types of flour. The semolina flour is great for making pasta, I believe, because of how much more absorbent it is. Definitely all-purpose flour should be sifted. And then I'm gonna mix this below.
I'm using Italian 00 flour. Gives your pasta a nice silkiness.
Salt up your water and then take your pasta noodles and you just give them a bath. Like putting your children in the bath. Don't kick your brother.
I'm forming this is where things are tricky. Let's be honest, I'm a level 2 chef. This might not work out. This might get messy.
So make a nice large volcano. I'm looking.
So I see that they're making the 2 from scratch pastas are doing it by hand to KitchenAid mixer or Cuisinart mixer or a Ninja mixer or a Black & Decker mixer. Like, the list goes on, and especially affordability from a $45 Black & Decker up to a $5,000 RoboCoupe. You have a very easy way to make the dough. Not that making dough is hard. I'm not trying to say that. This is a super basic. It's a skill maybe you're going to want to learn how to do, but if you have access to a food processor, you just throw it in there.
The volume of liquid that I have, and I want to make enough so that this doesn't kind of pour out all over the table.
Oh crap! Frank's doing kind of what I said with the extracting the chlorophyll from spinach. He's making a green pasta.
Let's hope my little jacuzzi holds up.
Making pasta is one of these things that is not as difficult as people think.
So far, so good. Oh boy. Oh, so far not so good. Yeah. Mayday, mayday.
Now I'm gonna take a nice big pinch of salt. I'm gonna whisk it together, and now I'm gonna start to bring my flour in slowly until I have a dough that I can handle with my hands.
I'm slowly whisking in the egg as it's... Man, am I level 1 today?
So now my lasagna noodles are boiling. I got them from the supermarket. They're gonna be right there. They're just gonna cook.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start cutting in this flour, right? A little bit of flour in my hand, start bringing it together.
I'm starting to sweat though. That's the problem with making pasta by hand.
You have to be sweating a little. If you're not sweating, you're not doing it right.
The olive oil's going in, and a little salt, and I'm gonna knead it really well, because it needs it. It needs it.
I'm gonna cook this for like about 10 minutes because I want the noodles to be like wobbly.
Definitely overcooking those noodles for 10 minutes. They're not just wobbly, but at 10 minutes, probably, because it looks like she has the wavy edges. The waves might even fall off at that point.
Dough, a pretty good amount, because I want it to get springy. See, it's like starting to spring back really nicely.
So what happens if I press on it, you see it springs back. That means I've worked the gluten, and I can let this rest now.
We made fresh pasta dough!
She made so much more than Frank.
Wrap it in some plastic wrap, and just let it rest for about 20 minutes to a half hour, room temperature.
In the fridge for 30 to 40 minutes.
So I think that they're ready. You ready for the next step? Yeah, I think so.
Time to make my pasta with a rolling pin.
So let's roll. So I'm just gonna do about 1/3 of our pasta dough.
So I like to cut it up into sections, so 4 equal parts.
Well, I flatten it out.
You would never want to try and work out that much dough at once. It would just become too unmanageable. It would get huge. It would it'd take up your whole countertop. And I've noticed that Frank here has a KitchenAid mixer, or a Ravioli, whatever brand it is that they use. He's going to have some type of pasta machine attachment. I've got a hand cranker, And I'm not saying, like, I would love to get one of those. I don't make it enough to make the investment, but I'm just surprised that he's using, like, I'm going to say he's using a mechanical advantage here, but he did the well from scratch and didn't use the mechanical advantage of a mixer to make the dough.
Turn my machine on, and I'm just gonna roll it through.
I don't want to say using a pasta maker is cheating, so I'm not gonna say that. I'm just not gonna say that.
After I roll it the first time, just a dusting of flour, I'm gonna do a book fold. And what this does is it helps even up our pasta. It'll be a little more uniform when I roll it through the second time. So let's roll that through. See, it's nice and squared up.
You can kind of go ahead and shape it into that starter shape. And now I have something that'll probably more easily roll into a rectangle. And now this, I can really get up there and push around.
When I'm working with the pasta dough, I use the backs of my hands, not my fingers, because fingers tend to poke through. Let's go down the numbers.
See? Take them out one by one. So yeah, you want to rinse your noodles. Let me tell you why. Because my mother did it. Like, you have to rinse the noodles because it was just soaking in all this muckety muck.
The machine lets.
So I'm already not sure what she's going to do is going to work, but rinsing the noodles, okay, I'm stuck on this because if they're going to be hot, so they're going to carry over and they might go mushy sitting on the counter. But if you're making ravioli, you need to have a way to, let's just say, glue them together. So if you rinse them off, you're going to rinse off that starch that could help with the sticking. So I am stuck on this. Also, I was thinking about this for a second. At the restaurant, we buy lasagna noodles. We don't make them. We don't make our dough from scratch. And we used to get a frozen product that was a lasagna noodle that was the right length for hotel pans. And it was a frozen fresh dough. Like, it wasn't, you didn't have to boil it. It was pliable. You could make ravioli out of that type of lasagna noodle. If you could get, if there's I don't know if there's a home version in the freezer aisle of your grocery store that is just like rectangular sheets of dough. I mean, you wouldn't even have to roll it out then. It's made like this, but like it's made like with the by hand or from scratch, but in a factory setting. So big machines doing it, and then it could be frozen and sent to you. You buy it at your store, and it's pretty decent dough.
You get to a thinner pasta, right? You can do this by hand with the rolling pin, but the machine really does a great job at getting it super thin.
I'm sure you'll get more perfectly thin pasta that way, but I don't know, this is pretty thin too.
And when it comes to ravioli, you want this pasta to be really thin because it's 2 layers of pasta dough.
Okay, now, so I took them out of the water and they're on my cutting board, but let me tell you what happened last time. It was hard for them to like stick together, so I rinsed them last time. So now I'm like, maybe I should just rinse one and see what happens, and then we'll do a little comparison.
This is my nice first sheet of pasta.
Okay, I have my nice sheet of pasta there. I can shut the machine off.
So now, next step.
For my ravioli filling, the first step is to cure the duck for my duck confit. Duck confit is a way of curing and preserving duck, and this kind of goes back to pre-refrigeration. You cure the duck with salt, it takes out a lot of the moisture, it flavors the duck, and then you cook it in its own fat and store it in its own fat at kind of cellar temperature, and it wouldn't go bad. Because this cure gets washed off afterwards, I'm really just gonna whack it up, stems and all, and it's gonna go into my...
So this is another problem I do find with the Epicurious videos, because the way they try to put them all together, like everybody makes their dough, everybody makes their stuffing, so they're all edited to kind of go in an order. I've only made duck confit from scratch a handful of times. The first time I made it in the school setting, it took 2 weeks. Set up our duck confit on week 1. Like, it took the entire class. I guess it didn't take 2 weeks, but it took the entire class to get it basically in our little containers. Everyone had their name on it. And then when we had cooking class again the following week, that's when we did a dish with the confit. But it did have to sit there, I think, a day or two in its fat after it was done. So if you were looking at Frank's section of the video trying to emulate him, you're going to want to make the confit maybe even a week ahead. Because like he's saying, it's how they would preserve meat before refrigeration. Dad would go out with his shotgun and get 10, 15, 20 ducks come home and they would, Mom would do this and they would put it in a barrel in the cellar. And whenever you wanted, protein over the winter, some duck, and when you couldn't get anything else, you'd go down to your duck and you would just reach into like a big wine barrel full of duck fat with like 20 ducks in it. And you would just reach in and grab. And that would be dinner, because nobody had invented fridges yet. And ice boxes they were around the corner, but they weren't there.
My bowl.
First things first, I'm going to go ahead and zest my lemon. I love lemon zest. I feel like lemon zest adds so much to a dish. And I have my handy dandy little juicer here.
Shallots, I'm just gonna take the peel off. So just do a little rough chop on this.
A little garlic. You always need a nice little aromatic.
All the salt goes in, sugar. I'm gonna take my bay leaves. I always like to use fresh cracked black pepper. This is how I make it better than Gabby's.
No!
I have my Parmesan, it's already grated. So now I have my mozzarella. And you just press down.
Add in my peas because I want to kind of mash them. My nickname's Pea because I have a tiny head.
What I'm gonna do with my cure is I'm gonna put a layer down on the bottom of my dish over here, and then I'm gonna put a fair amount of cure on each leg. It's important that we use a coarse salt for this. If you use a very fine salt, the duck legs will be extremely salty. I'm gonna wrap this up and put it in the fridge for as long as I possibly can.
Get a little bit of your aggression out. Sometimes someone sends you a dumb email and you have to respond to it. That guy, the guy that's like, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, as he throws you under the bus. Like, just think about that guy. His name is Tom.
I made these duck legs the other day. I cured them for about 24 hours. What I want to do with these now is get off the excess salt. I'm just going to brush that off, but I'm just going to put them in this bowl of water and dry these off really well. And now we're going to cook them.
The ricotta emphasizes the sweetness in the peas and vice versa. Add in pecorino romano, and that's going to bring up the saltiness factor. My salt, some pepper.
We're going to cook the duck now. I'm using rendered duck fat. Lard works for this as well. So all I'm going to do is take my fat. We want it to be melted and warm. And let's put our duck legs in the fat. I'm gonna put these in a preheated oven at about 250 degrees for about 2 to 3 hours.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put some of my lemon juice in, and then I wanna incorporate this really well because these are all going to be going into individual raviolis.
The duck confit has cooked for about 2.5 hours. Now I'm gonna pull the meat off the bones. All of my duck legs are picked, and all I'm gonna do is give this a nice rough chop. And now we can finish the filling.
The mozzarella is gonna melt down like gooey, and the Parmesan, what it's gonna do is it's just gonna like make everything stick together. It's kind of like a cheese marriage.
Now we get to assemble our filling. I have a nice chunk of Parmigiano Reggiano. We want to take some of this thyme and just pick some leaves in there. Duck goes in, 1 duck egg, and mascarpone cheese. Once the mascarpone melts, and the Parmesan cheese melts, we're gonna have a nice kind of creamy filling.
So now that our cheese is ready, I'm gonna start cutting our sheets. I'm down the middle.
A very light coating of egg wash. And this is just basically glue.
Just kind of a more guarantee that things are gonna stick nicely.
Because we wanna take our cheese. Got mozzarella first.
They're doing some egg wash in there, and I was just thinking last time I've only done one homemade ravioli video. I'll link it up, and it was the egg ravioli. Where you have you put a raw egg in it, and then you finish it, and then you boil it, and then you cut it open, and the egg pours out. Yeah, the egg, I don't know. Sunny side up egg. I'm not sure what it's called anymore. But that was a big thing on all those culinary competition shows about 5 years ago. So I have a video where I tried it, and it was pretty good.
You want to put them to one end of the sheet.
And just kind of eyeball a tablespoon of filling for each raviolis.
A nice mound of filling in the middle. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a little cradle, and then I'm gonna take a duck egg yolk and put an egg yolk in each.
A whole egg yolk inside a ravioli.
Damn, Frank, you just did what I was talking about. Twice now. I talked about whole egg in ravioli just before you did it, and I talked about extracting chlorophyll from spinach to color your pasta, and then you did it. What else am I gonna predict? Should I go get some lottery numbers?
Just an egg, and you just bite into the...
Now it's time to go ahead and lay my second sheet down over top.
And I'm gonna lay it over. Give it a little stretch. I'm gonna go around Try and get all of the air out.
Otherwise, though, I don't really have much of a method.
So now we're testing to see if they're sticking together or not. And so the clean girls are, what are you guys doing? Are you? Not so much. They're hugging and kissing. Look at this. Okay, so don't rinse your noodles.
Once you boil your pasta, it'll get a little bit more rigid, and then you don't have to be quite so delicate with it. It's not like a little baby bird anymore.
One thing that you want to make sure of when you do these ravioli is that you get a good seal. I put the egg wash on and then I press down nice and tight.
So now what I'm doing is I'm making sure that they're sticking together. So, you know, you put a little arm muscle in there and you make sure that they stay together.
The stamp is to kind of give yourself a nice edge. This one looks and feels really good. I'm gonna go ahead and just stamp that. Here's my first little ravioli.
And I'm gonna cut the ravioli with that, okay? I think that ravioli in any shape or form are delicious.
So a ravioli should be square. I think that's just what the Italian said.
I do like circles better just for the fact that it's a little less dough. So what I do now is I'm gonna crimp the edges a little, dust my tray really well, just so they don't stick. But that's basically what I'm gonna cook for one person.
So now that I've sealed them to perfection, I'm going to transfer them over to my parchment.
I think hers would seal better if she didn't fold them over, if she had just cut it and then put two pieces together. Because when she folds it over and it's one sheet of lasagna and she's coming over, where she has that hinge point, you're never going to be able to press that shut quite as tight as you want to. So if she had cut that, she'd be able to crimp down that side too.
All we have to do for this right now is melt the butter. Once it's melted, we'll get the ravioli in the water and we'll finish the sauce.
I have some gently boiling water. I'm going to salt it a nice, generous
A fair amount of salt. So I don't want this to be at a full rolling boil when I add the pasta because they're fairly delicate. And if it's boiling away like crazy, it's gonna beat my ravioli up. So I'm just gonna get these, lay them in nice and gently.
So my pasta's going in, and when they float, they're done.
I'm gonna give them about 3 to 4 minutes, and then we're gonna put them in with our sauce.
So this is only taking like real time, about 10 seconds. All right, we have a floater. Looks great.
I think we're ready for the sauce. You guys feeling saucy? Okay, so am I. I like for my oil to heat up slowly. I'm gonna chop my garlic, and garlic is essential for any kind of pasta. Just chop it up nice.
So the first thing I'm gonna do is make a roux. It's basically equal parts butter and flour. The thing about a roux is this is gonna thicken my sauce.
I'm going to take my butter, okay? I'm gonna be sure that I get them the yolk side up because I don't really want the yolk to burst at all.
So now that my garlic is chopped, I'm going to put that into the pan, okay?
And so now I'm going to whisk in my pasta waters. So this is salted water, essentially.
Some black pepper.
So now we're gonna chop up a little bit of the basil. Right. That smells so good.
At this point, I'm going to add in my peas as well as my lemon zest. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add in my lemon juice.
Pinch of salt. I need some sugar. And then you just start dropping your tomatoes in. You need the sugar to take some of the acidity out of the tomato. It just makes it taste like a sauce.
The other thing you can do is, instead of adding sugar, is using wine, like some white wine. It's going to sound funny, but if you use an acidic white wine, it will counterbalance the tomato acid, and you can do that instead of sugar. I know fighting acid with acid doesn't sound right, but it totally works.
To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop.
Because now it's time to add in my ravioli. So I'm just kind of plopping them in there.
You just want the cheese to melt inside.
I'm gonna finish with some Parmesan in my sauce. And what the Parmesan's gonna do, it's gonna help thicken my sauce. It's gonna melt a little.
They look very rustic, very homemade, but that's what I wanted. That was the goal. I do have a little bit of olive oil that I am going to use just to kind of brighten that flavor a little bit.
Oh, I think I'm ready. Off.
All we gotta do is plate this up and give it a taste.
So I'm gonna plate the ravioli. I always put one in the middle. I think 5 is the perfect amount because it just sits so nicely on the plate. It's like flower petals. That's what it
5 looks good because it's an odd number. And for some reason, we're trained to think that odd numbers look natural and that even numbers look artificial. So like whenever you see 2 of something, For some reason, that's just the way that our brains are programmed.
It looks like.
You don't need too much sauce, right? The main star is the ravioli. I'm thinking we'll do 5, so we'll see who makes the cut on America's Next Top Ravioli.
Yeah, exactly what she said. I feel the more complicated the stuffing for the ravioli, the less complicated the sauce should be. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. Like, Frank just did a very simple butter sauce. His ravioli is extremely complicated. Gabriella's ravioli is a very middle-of-the-road complication. And so is her sauce. So they're, you know, like Frank's is like a 90 ravioli and a 10 sauce. He's got 100. Gabriella's is like a 50-50. She's still got 100. And Onika's sauce, she's got a very basic, like, I don't think you can get any more basic ravioli without opening up a can of Chef Boyardee. So she's got a very 10 ravioli. And unfortunately, she didn't even really make a sauce. She bruised up some cherry tomatoes in a pan. So she's also got like a 30 sauce. Like, she's scoring 40 points out of 100 here. So, but she is at that level 1. I feel like this is a good transitional video to show you, you know, level 1 is making food here. Level 2 is making food here. Level 3 is up here. They're pretty close, but they're in a different way.
I'm only gonna serve 1 ravioli per person. Just a little bit of that buttery goodness, just a little bit of black pepper.
I'm gonna take some of this fresh basil, just a little bit,
Grated
and some Parmesan.
around.
Cheese, just a nice sprinkling.
It's snowing. It's snowing. It's snowing on my ravioli.
And then top it off with some nice fresh minced parsley.
Duck ravioli.
And this is my ravioli.
This is my ravioli.
And that's my duck ravioli.
You know, a lot of times when I watch these, I think Frank goes a little overboard, and I usually pick the level 2. But it's so hard on these 3, because after plated, even Onika's looks good. I like the fact that she got some, I mean, since she cheated heavily with lasagna noodles, the fact that she got that color on there, like they have a little bit of crispness to them. Fried raviolis are delicious. So I'm probably going to lean towards Frank's, because duck, when done right, is amazing. I love duck. Well, anyways, guys, that was my reaction to 4 levels of ravioli, amateur to food scientist. Not going to really worry too much about what the food scientist has to say. She'll just give you a post-video commentary, kind of like what I just did, but throughout. So, if you have anything you want to see me watch, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. I know every YouTuber tells you to do that. Most of you don't. You know what would help me a ton more than that? Just watching another video. Anyways, thanks for watching me this week. I'll see you next week.